Good luck. Everybody, let's see, is this working? Can you hear me? Let's see if I can get mic'd up. Yep, I think everyone can hear me. So, I think when you talk about e-commerce and the last mile, you cannot avoid talking about Amazon, because if I were to choose any one organization that has been a catalyst for change over the last 5 or 10 years, I think it is that company. So today is all about sharing with you why, how, and what might happen next. So here we go. First thing, this is an interactive presentation, so I think I'm going to be one of the few people that says, keep your phones on, please. Feel free to ask questions. One of the challenges, the time slot is a bit narrow, so questions we can cover maybe later on at the back of the room, but there will be some interactive surveys, and I really value your input, so please use those. And I'm going to move forward because of time. So, agenda. First of all, to understand Amazon, you have to know how to think like an Amazonian. So that's going to be the first thing. Second thing, why is Amazon interested in the last mile? And I think this is really important for all you e-commerce guys out there, because there is a very important reason why. Then Simon talked a bit about this, so he stole a bit of my thunder, but 2 letters that are fundamental for any e-commerce, but particularly for Amazon, which is CX. What you can learn from Amazon. We've cut out, will Amazon enter the market? Because I can tell you straight away, they're not going to come to Finland in a hurry because of time, but if you're interested, you can ask me later. But we will talk about latest trends in the last mile, what's happening. And then Q&A with me at the back afterwards. Few words about me. I'm what's called an Anglopole, so I spent half of my life in the UK, my English bit, but both parents were Polish, that's my Polish bit, and since 1990, I've been in Central Europe. I started with DHL as part of their startup team in Poland, by the way, one of their most successful operations in Europe, and then did various things, but what's relevant for us, I set up a small courier company called Masterlink, which grew to be quite big, and that company is now DPD Poland, which is a 300 million euro business, and up until recently was #1 in the market, but they've been pipped at the post by InPost, who I think understands B2C a bit better. Since then, I managed for DPD, who bought Masterlink, a region of 16 countries, basically coming down from the Baltics to the Balkans in Eastern Europe, at which point Amazon called and said, look, Marek, would you be interested in helping us start up our last mile? And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. So I think I've got some relevant experience there. Let's talk about that. 2 things you need to understand to think like an Amazonian. The first is Jeff's flywheel. Out of interest, has anyone here seen Jeff's flywheel before? Hands up if anyone has. Oh, I know some of you have. Well, okay, it's great that, okay, 2 or 3. But I think probably it's the most important document for any Amazonian. And just to give you a bit of background, this strategic document was written on his lap in a bar sometime 15, 20 years ago, and it's still probably the single most important strategic document at Amazon. Not so complicated, you'll see it in a minute. And the other thing is Amazon's management principles. If someone's a Christian, you have the 10 Commandments. At Amazon, you have the 14 management principles, which govern what you do every minute of every day. One of them is very relevant to those 2 letters, CX, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's start with the flywheel. So, Jeff's in a bar, he's thinking, okay, how can we change the digital world and the e-commerce world? And he created this. And I don't know if have I got something that I can actually laser show this? Yeah. He created this, and any guesses where it starts? Because of time, I'm going to move forward, I'm going to help you here. Starts with the customer experience. And what Jeff said is, okay, if the customer experience is right, people are going to come back, they're going to click, we'll get traffic. If we get traffic, we're going to get a lot of people who want to sell on our site. And this was one really important thing. Jeff, unlike many carriers and posts, understood we can sell for our competitors because it makes us stronger. So there's no problem that we're going to have a whole lot of sellers. And in fact, in many cases, half of what Amazon sells on their site is not actually Amazon, it's other third-party sellers. So, okay, so you've got the sellers. They're happy because they're selling a lot of things on Amazon. And the customer is happy because he gets selection and convenience. He knows, or she, ladies, knows that they will find what they want on the site. So you've got selection and convenience. That leads to customer experience. And a lot of people would say, hey, that's cool. We're going to charge crazy high prices, make a lot of profit, and that's the end. But no, Bezos said something else. We want even more people to click. We want to sell even more. And what we're going to do, we're not going to take that to profit. We're going to use our cost structure to offer lower prices. So what do you get? Selection and convenience, great. Low prices, so you know that there's pretty much a chance if I'm looking for something, I will find it on Amazon, and I will find it at a good price. So why go anywhere else? Pretty simple, but actually pretty effective. And if you look at how Amazon's growing, then you can see that actually this model works. So that's the first half, the flywheel. The second half, this is a bit more complicated. And in case you're worried I'm going to bore you with all of them, I'm not. But this is the Amazon Bible. And when I started at Amazon, one of the first courses I had was to understand every single one of these in great detail. You can check them in the presentation or find them online, but I'm going to focus on one today because I think it's really relevant. And you can guess which one it is, or maybe not. Customer obsession. Customer obsession means everything at Amazon ticks around the customer. Even when you start a new project, it's not like any other company I've worked for. You start with a press release. So you've got a new product, you do a press release. Marek was delighted, his life changed. From tomorrow, he could pick up his parcel at a locker 5 meters away, open 24/7. Wow, Marek said, this makes my customer experience amazing. And that's how you'd start. And you'd start with something like that, and guess what? You start from the customer backwards. And I think it's one of the very few companies that doesn't just say it, but really believes it. And I won't go into the details at the moment, but if someone's interested afterwards, you can grab me. I can tell you a little bit more how the follow-up works. But it really is an organization that starts with you, and you, to understand what you need, what you want, and what you might want, to create capabilities that you didn't even believe were possible. I really recommend reading these because if you want to think like an Amazonian, and if you want in your organization, if you're another e-commerce player, or if you're a carrier, or if you just want to understand Amazon, this will help you really see what has made them successful. Some of the headings like ownership, customer experience, dive deep, which is a data-driven thing, came up in what Simon presented earlier. But I really recommend reading these. Okay, now, time to try Slido. So we've got a warm-up question for you to see if you've been listening. And hopefully, if my friend Marek can get this to operate, we will be able to, in a minute, see what you think. So which of the 14 leadership principles is the most important? And what we should see, brilliant, hey, this is working, what you think. Now, not too many of you are active so far. What's the code? The code, you should put smart. It's a different code. This is a different code because this is not a smart commerce Slido. It's our last mile expert Slido, but don't tell anyone. Interesting. Okay, this was a warm-up question, and by the way, well done, because you're absolutely right. If I were to choose any single one, shall we say, a management principle that is absolutely fundamental, it is that one. So well done, you've been listening. You're right, the others who chose others, they're all important. But if there's one single management principle that is absolutely overriding, it's customer obsession. Okay, we can move forward. If we could have the questions again. No. Okay, we can do that. If you can see it. Every Amazon meeting, Amazon has a very specific culture. And at every Amazon meeting, you have a spare chair. So Poland is a Christian country. At Christmas, we have a spare chair in case someone else will come. Who do you think the spare chair is for at Amazon meetings? Hey, you're active. 68 people. I'm impressed. Wow, Finland. Great. Okay, and you're right. Every Amazon meeting, you have a spare chair, and that chair is intended to be for the customer. And when we talk, or when they talk, they should be thinking all the time, okay, that spare chair, that's the customer. What would he think about what we're doing, or she? So great, well done. Let's move on. I think we had a third one. Yeah, this is important. This is a free question. You can answer it. This is something from me. You didn't get a chance to see all the leadership principles, but most of you have heard things about Amazon. And they're really great in many respects. They're great at taking ownership. They're great at diving deep. They're great at really doing everything for the customer. But is there something that you think is missing? Oh, wow, yes. Yes, yes, all right. Many people will say this is the one thing. If they cared half as much about their employees as they did about their customers, they would probably be more successful. And I have to say, I think that in many respects, they are really strong. They do a lot of things right, and clearly it is working. But perhaps if there was one thing I would choose, well, I'm not sure about Darth Vader there, but if there's one thing I'd choose, it's exactly that Amazon cares about the customer, but probably could spend a bit more time caring about its people, because it's a service industry after all. Okay, let's move on. If I click this, let's see if it's going to allow me to move forward, or do I need Marek to... Okay. Another interesting thing about Amazon, there's a few anecdotes that I just want to share with you. First of all, when is a door not a door? We won't do this through Slido. Anyone got any ideas? There's a clue here. When they started out, they were working in a small garage, and they were packing parcels like this on their knees, which actually doesn't work too well. And somebody said, you know what, Jeff? Maybe we should make it a bit more comfortable, and we'll set up a table to pack our parcels. For those of you who are with startups, you know what it's like at the beginning. And of course, Jeff, being very cautious with his money, one of the 14 principles is be frugal. They went to Home Depot or somewhere like that, and they got a door, which was the cheapest thing, put some legs on it. And just to let you know how serious this is, my boss was worldwide transportation director. In his office, he had one of these desks. There's a couple of other interesting things. Does anyone know who Rufus is? Well, you know it's a dog, of course, from the picture. Did you know that in Amazon's offices, you were allowed to bring dogs? And you know why? Very early on, at the early days, there was a dog called Rufus that sort of hung around. He was a bit of a sort of, shall we say, symbol for what was fine in the company. And for that reason, every Amazon office, well, other than logistics where it's more difficult in the field, you can have dogs. Final one is the two-pizza rule, which I wanted to share with you. And the two-pizza rule is pretty cool. And these are these anecdotes that you live through in every day there. And it says in any team that you're running, if the team is so big that two pizzas won't allow them to feed themselves, then the team's too big. So, you know, these anecdotes are really important. It's pretty cool if you think about it. And a lot of these things are actually borne out in real life. And if you try it, you'll see, do we really need 50 people in a team? Can it work? So these are a couple of rules. You can check if you go onto Google and you can write sort of Amazon anecdotes. You'll find these and many more. But let's now focus on my favorite subject, which is the last mile. And why did Amazon start thinking about it? Why did they invest so many millions, and probably multi-billions, or millions rather, in the last mile? Because they worked out one important thing. You can get everything else right. You can make a super website. You can have absolutely great sort of intuitive use of the site. But the only place you touch your customer is in the last mile. And you can get everything else perfect, but if the last mile sucks, if the courier is not pleasant, if the item arrives damaged or late, that's what really lives with the client, the customer, as their customer experience. And that's why Amazon started thinking, and it's not just Amazon, any e-commerce, you guys who are from e-commerce will probably, I hope you'll agree with me, that you want the following things. Number one, you want capacity. You want to know that your promises will be delivered. So especially Christmas time, if you're in a seasonal business, you want to know that your carriers will make sure that your customers get the item. Because actually, there's nothing worse than not being able to supply what you've promised. The second thing is quality. And quality, contrary to what some people will say, is not faster, but means keeping your promises. So people will not cry so much if you're not there within 2 hours. But if you say that I'm going to be there the same day, and you're not the same day, that's when people get really upset. And then the final thing is desire for customer-centric features. Things like 7-day delivery, things like IDM, which is interactive delivery management, or in a more human term, it's like an Uberization, so you can see on the map where your driver is and so on. And what I think is really sort of important, Amazon realized these things are critical. If you don't have them, you're not going to be able to be the solution that people want. You're not going to be the site that people are going to click on and come back to. And guess what? The carriers were not willing or able to offer it. And surprise, surprise, UK is where they started. Royal Mail said, for example, 7 days, no way. IDM, well, no, we'll do that in the future. Our famous word, legacy system, is not going to allow us to do it. And what did Amazon do? They said, that's it. We are going to do it ourselves. Because they knew that a good customer experience brings loyalty, brings new customers. And I've put some, hopefully you'll get a PDF of this later if you want it, but some good quotes, I think. And this is a good one from Jeff, which is, if you build a great experience, customers tell each other about it. And word of mouth is a very, very powerful tool. Right. In case some of you are still not convinced, I hope I did convince you, but if not, there's a company called MetaPack that does a lot of really good research. And I won't go through all of it, but I think the most important elements are, well over half of customers will actually choose one shop or e-shop over another because of the last mile solution. So this isn't just a nice to have. This is something that can change your business one way or the other. So you cannot afford, you can like it or hate it, maybe you hate the last mile, understandable, but you can't avoid it. This is going to be, if you're selling physical items that require a delivery, this is something you've got to look at. And there's a guy called Malcolm Gladwell, who I really like, because this guy, something like 15 years ago, when we didn't even talk about last mile in the sense we have today, but he said, it isn't just that e-commerce depends on express mail, that's what they called it at the time. There's a sense in which e-commerce is express mail. I would change maybe the words express mail for last mile. But the reality is, for those of you who are delivering physical goods, the last mile is, without a doubt, the most important and intrinsic part of what you're dealing with. Okay, let's go back to Slido. And I'm going to be interested to see your views, because you don't have to agree with me. And I'm more than happy, by the way, afterwards, if someone doesn't agree with me, to have a chat about it. But if we can see what your view is regarding the last mile, is it now as important as the checkout experience? We'll see if I convinced you or not. Hurrah. Good, okay. There's a couple that said no, and I'll be really interested afterwards to talk to you. And of course, for the no's, if it is a non-delivery, so it's a pure service that doesn't require delivery, then I completely agree. But if not, then I'd love to talk to you afterwards, because hopefully I can convince you. But that's great. The great news is actually almost 80% of you understand how important the last mile is. So that's great. I hope in your day-to-day lives, you live that, and you make sure that when you're working with your last mile partners, you don't do something that I've seen very often, which is ask only one question: how much does it cost? And not, what can we do to be more customer-centric? What can we do to make that last mile experience better? Okay, if we can move forward. I'm sorry I'm rushing through, but I think I mentioned at the beginning that we have a slight sort of time challenge. But then you can catch me later. Let's... Okay, what do e-commerce shoppers want? We talked about what the shipper wants. So we talked about capacity, we talked about customer experience. Now, I think Simon said earlier that people want more control, they're becoming more demanding. And honestly, Amazon is one of the companies that has shown them how to be more demanding. And I believe in the last mile, the customers want the following things. They want a very premium and personalized delivery service. They want to be able to choose and control. They would like to have same day or even same hour, especially if it's for free. If you start saying, hold on a minute, you have to pay for it, that changes a little bit. They love time slot delivery because if it's a to-door delivery, you do not want to be at home all day. Makes sense. They want, this is really important, and I wish the US carriers understood this earlier, they want an alternative delivery option. They want lockers and PUDOs, they call them access points in America, but a place where you can pick up at a time convenient to you. Or maybe safe drop, leave with neighbor. That works in some markets, very good in the UK, doesn't work in Eastern Europe too well. I'm not sure how it works in the Nordics. They want redirections. So guess what? People change their minds. And they want to be able to, on the fly, say, hey, you know what? I was planning to have it delivered to home, but I have to go out to visit my sick mother or something else. I'm not going to be home. And the one that I personally dislike most, people want multiple delivery attempts, which is very expensive. And I think our job is to try to find every other alternative to avoid that. One statistic I had from Amazon, which is quite interesting, if you fail to deliver first time, there's 6.5 more times likely to be a customer service failure later on. So you do not want to fail first time. Consolidation of deliveries. This is actually a really clever one. I won't go into it in too much because of time, but consolidation of deliveries is the one where you have Amazon Day where you can say, actually, I'm not going to be home every day, but I'm home Thursdays, so let's have all my parcels that day. Super cool for Amazon because they only pay for one delivery. And then the one final thing I'd say that's critical, to make all of this happen, you need something called IDM, Interactive Delivery Management. That is the secret sauce, another Amazonian term. So you can get everything else right, but if the app that you've got is not customer-centric, doesn't work well, doesn't allow the customer to interface with you, you will fail. One other thing, for those of you who say, God, this is such an effort, is it worthwhile? This is one of my favorite quotes. Often people say price, price, price. The reason people talk about price is if you're not giving them other things to talk about. We're going to cut Slido because I can see I'm running short on time, but you can ask this later to me if you want, which is what do customers really want if you think that I didn't explain it well enough. But we're going to move on to implications for carriers. Key implication for any carrier or your partners, and this is what you should check from your partners, is keep your delivery promises. Make sure that your customer experience is great. And what I want to show you now is a video that is going to show you what the whole ethos of Amazon is. This video was made 3 or 4 years ago. Everything in it is true and it works, because I've personally done what the guy with the green bag has done in this video. So let's have that video, because it's worth 1,000 words.
Ask all recipes for a shrimp pasta recipe.
My recommendation is champagne shrimp and pasta recipe. Main ingredients are shrimp, mushrooms, plum tomatoes, cream, and Parmesan cheese.
Mushrooms. Tomatoes. How many ounces are in a cup?
1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces.
Buy white wine from Prime now.
Your favorite white wine will be here between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m.
Dim lights to 70%. To old friends. Good to see you guys.
So what you've seen, hopefully, from the video is this customer centricity. Basically, you do everything. The customer doesn't need to think. Your favorite white wine. I don't know if I'm not a very good cook, and I always have a problem. How many milliliters in a cup tells you everything. You don't need to go anywhere else. And then, can you imagine if they didn't get the last mile right, they could do everything else perfectly, but they'd still fail. So I think all of us should be thinking about this sort of approach. How do we completely give solutions to the customer? How do we act in the most customer-centric way? Is there a best-in-class that is anywhere close to Amazon? Well, there is actually. And although I worked for them, this wasn't in my region, so I can say that without saying, hey, it was me. So DPD UK, there's another presentation which I don't think we've got time for because of the slot. But what I will say is they have pretty much all of the services you'd expect from an Uber-type network. They have a 15-minute final time delivery window. They allow you to interactively communicate, to change your mind, and to give them options that suit you. So if you're interested in best-in-class, I think in Europe, possibly in the world, have a look at DPD UK. There's something called Predict. You can see it on the internet. And that is the sort of the only last mile organization in Europe that I've seen that is close to Amazon in terms of that customer experience. And we're not going to show this one now. No. And we're not going to do, or maybe we do have time to do it. You know what, let's do it quickly. And we can end on that. Should we do DPD? We'll do it quickly.
That will be the last thing.
That will be the last thing.
We've made online shopping even easier. With Predict Follow My Parcel. As well as your initial 1-hour time slot, you can now watch our delivery driver with your parcel as he makes his way to you, counting down to give a final 15-minute delivery slot. Let's see how this works. On the morning of delivery, we'll text or email you to let you know when we're coming. Click on this link to see our map, showing you our driver's progress as he makes his way to you. You can even see exactly where you are in his delivery schedule. And with our countdown, you'll get a 15-minute delivery window so that you know exactly when we're coming and can carry on with enjoying your day. If you're not going to be in, we have a menu of in-flight options for you to select from. If you select Deliver to Neighbour, you can even choose the neighbour you'd like us to deliver your parcel to. We'll then send you this confirmation for total peace of mind. Or, if it's not convenient, you can select a different delivery date. All you have to do is give your online retailer your mobile phone number or email address, and you'll be able to follow your parcel all the way home with a 15-minute time slot so you know exactly when we'll be with you. DPD, providing the best possible delivery experience.
If anyone is interested, let's talk afterwards. As I said, we had a slight challenge with the slots, so I had to be customer-centric and adapt today. But I'd love to hear any of your questions and comments. Hopefully you got a feeling for how Amazon works today. Thank you very much, and whatever you do, remember the last mile, and I look forward to seeing some exciting developments in Finland and the Nordics in the last mile. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.